We are here to see Boo make a fool of himself and answer questions without having prepared at all. So we'll see. But mostly, we're here because I want to make sure that everyone knows about my new novel, which has just come to life today. Hold on, I'm just going to say, there we go. The English Bookstore in Bologna. My wife has given me 30 minutes to do this thing because we are getting ready to hop on a boat and go to a fun little restaurant called the Long Island Bakehouse. And I'm going to have a lobster roll and celebrate because it is a monumental day. I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite books that I've ever written. And, I was saying this earlier. I spent such a long time grinding. I've probably been writing 7 days a week for 20 something years, almost without fail. I mean, truly, um, it's just something that it was so that I baked in myself for so long that it's almost uncomfortable for me not to write. I mean, it kind of helps me get through my life in a lot of ways. So, even if I'm on vacation, I remember going on a cruise with my family through the Mediterranean, and I was just getting up at 4:30 and sneaking in words before my family was awake because it just makes me feel whole inside. It makes me feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing. All of that habit has baked in for so long that I sometimes forget to celebrate. And, giving my all to a book, it really is. It's more than just getting up and writing every morning. Creating a new story is totally immersing yourself almost every hour of the day. Bless my family for putting up with me when I'm at the dinner table physically, but in my head, I'm kind of thinking about characters and plot and all those kinds of things. But I give all that to a book, and then I work with a great team who helps me pull the whole thing together. And it's worth celebrating. It's worth taking a moment and just saying, hey, my team and I, beta team, my editors, my agent, my family, my friends, everyone who contributed, everyone who's in the acknowledgments, we did this thing together and it's worth celebrating. So, in about an hour, if you are close by, you are going to spot me sitting at a table looking over Casco Bay at a bunch of lobster traps as I eat a lobster roll and drink a cold IPA. So that's pretty good celebration. And actually, today, really, what I want to do is answer a bunch of questions because I rarely do that. I see so many people are here, and I really appreciate it. Marta, Lane, I see you. I appreciate you always supporting me. And my father, Lemuel Jr., is there. Everybody found out my name because the College of Charleston posted my real name on their social media feed, and everybody's delighting in finding out that my real name is Lemuel Harold Walker III. My son is Lemuel Harold Walker IV. And of course, my father is Junior, and he is on the chat. I appreciate it, Dad. Sherry, Jackie Ann, Nancy, Julie B. I so appreciate all of you, and my wonderful brother who was just up here, and we got to hang out and go on a bike ride and boat ride and all the things. I so appreciate you guys being here. If you have a question, you get priority in this chat. I will happily answer anything, but I also have been collecting questions from you guys over the course of the week as I prepared for this Ask Me Anything event. So I'm just going to hit through a couple. And the first I loved, it was, what do you do on release day? Well, as I said, I'm really trying to not work as much. I'm actually not going to write. I'm just going to visit with you, and then I'm going to go off and play with my family. And then I grab these. There's always some wine folks around, and as you know, I used to be in the wine business, and I adore wine. This is what's on the lineup for tonight. So, the English Bookstore in Bologna. Bologna is a charming, wonderful city in northern Italy. And one of the things I learned is the climate is way more Maine than the Italy that we think of when we think of Naples and Rome and like warm weather and caprese salad and beautiful tomatoes and, juicy mozzarella and all these kind of beautiful, kind of standard Southern Italian dishes. up in the north in Bologna, they do things a lot differently. There's a lot more meat, there's a lot heartier stuff, and so they have one wine that they drink all the time, and it's able to cut through all of that kind of fat, and it is Lambrusco. And my wife and I really didn't drink much Lambrusco, in the past few really decade or two. It just never really was on my radar until we went to Bologna, and then I understood it. And one of the beautiful things about wine is once you understand the context of something, it opens itself up to you. So I have something. This is very hipster. I probably picked this up from friends and family in Portland on Congress Street, which is all the cool hipster natural stuff. This is called Secco Bro. We're going to drink that at some point, and then I mean, I don't know if we're going to drink all this. Maybe if some friends show up. This is a Wilmoth Austrian Grauburgunder, which is Grauburgunder is another name for Pinot Gris. We'll get to that in, and then as I mentioned a few times, my biggest kind of one of my traditions on release day is to have veggie burgers on the grill and drink some Beaujolais. So this is a Celinay Beaujolais from 2023. So kind of a fun lineup for you wine people. Anyway, let's get into some more questions. And I think it's appropriate that there's the first few are indeed about the English bookstore in Bologna. How did you get the original story for our idea for this story? It really was a long time coming. My wife and I, when we met, we had this mutual shared dream to live in Europe for a while. And we concocted this whole big, beautiful plan. And we booked a trip to Valencia, Spain, because that was my wife is pretty fluent and I'm okay, but it made sense that we go to Spain because we could navigate a little easier. And so we settled on Valencia, Spain. And in March of, was it 2020, we were headed out to go confirm and make sure that this was the place to move. And COVID hit and we weren't able to go. And I was writing, what was I writing? Singing Trees. Yeah. And we were really taken aback. We were like, this is, I don't know if we should just take a chance and move to Spain because we were very close to get visas, but we wanted to go kind of check out the town first, But ultimately we went back and forth and we decided we're just going to do it. So what was it in September of that year, or maybe October, we got our visas and we boarded a giant Delta plane, and there were about 8 people on the whole plane. It was the 3 of us and our little Boston Terrier, and we had probably 50 rows to ourselves because the only way you could travel there was if you had a visa, and that was just limited at the time. So we got there and we rented an apartment, lived there for a year and a half, and it was unbelievable. There were moments where the whole country was shut down and you couldn't leave your community unless you had a reason. So I had a letter from my publisher, Lake Union, proving that I was an author there to do research for a story. So we were able to get on the highway and ride around with just delivery trucks and go all over Spain. And it was beyond remarkable. And we got to know a lot of expats. And I discovered, which is something I already knew, which was that I have a lot of expat blood in my soul. I'm just a nomad in general, as is my wife. And we adored getting to know the other expats from all over the place, Germany, Austria, where else we had great friends from California that we brought back, and great friends from Boston too, just all over the place. And we all kind of, there's this thing with expats where you have tremendous wanderlust, you love to travel, and you kind of maybe are running from something and running to something, chasing something. And so I just remember, a few months into our travels, we'd collected a lot of into our living in Valencia, we'd collected so many friends. And I remember sitting at a really long table at the beach in Valencia and with probably 14 people. And it was just people from all over the world. And everybody was so fascinating and interesting. And I just felt like I'm home. I mean, this is truly so wonderful. And of course, the writer inside of me in the back of my head was just thinking, now, what can I steal from all these people, all my friends, that will make for good fiction? And so just like I did in my Red Mountain days, I got to know these people and what made them tick. And I started to kind of let some fictional expats come alive in my head. And then I pitched the story to my publisher along with two other books, and they chose the two other books, shot this one down. And I was kind of bummed because I'd already created this character named Sandy in my head, who was the owner of an English bookstore in Valencia. And turns out she would linger with me for years and into a few more books. And to the point where I said, I've got to get Sandy out onto the page or she's just going to haunt me. And she can be a real haunting woman. Um, so I came back, I guess, a year and a half ago and pitched the story to my publisher, but said, you know what? I already wrote A Spanish Sunrise. I think I've covered Spain for the moment. I'd love to write something set in Italy. My wife's about to get her and son are about to get their Italian citizenship. And of course, Italy's Italy. It's the best. So I didn't want to do Rome. I didn't want to do Naples or Florence. I wanted to do something kind of a little bit maybe less discovered by Americans, and maybe even more so something that I didn't know yet. Somewhere where my wife would allow me to take a plane and just go discover, which is the best thing in the world, is me and a dictaphone and a notepad and landing in a foreign town and saying, you've got 2 weeks, just go find your story, find your people. So I did that, pitched it to my publisher, and here we are. I'm really, really excited about it. Let's see. It's my brother. I think I see a Joanne. It could be Joanne Walker, my mother. That's beautiful. Julie B, you just received the book. Thank you. I love the cover too. Did you have a say in the cover art? And was this always the title? That's a good question. I had, I always have say in the cover art. My publisher, Like Union, is so wonderful in that if I don't love it, they have all the patience in the world and they let me keep pushing and trying. And every once in a while, we'll get somewhere where I'm looking at a couple different covers with Lake Union in the past, 9 books we've done together. And I'll say, I'm not feeling this at all. Can we start all over? And they say, absolutely, which is so sweet. However, this cover, they sent me 3 covers right out of the gate. This one was virtually untouched from that version, and I adored it from the get go. It was like, this captures exactly what this story is about. So thanks for that question. Um, what are the weeks like leading up to release date? Well, I suppose it's always a mad rush because I'm working on dev edits for my new story, Salvation Isle, at this very moment. That's due on the 12th. And at the same time, I'm focused on marketing and talking about this book. And it's really important. For a long time, I kind of had this mindset that I'm just going to create a focus on backlist, meaning write as many books as possible with all your energy and just let that do the marketing. But I think I've reached a place 17 books in where I've got a backlist, and it's time to just put my face out there and show people that I'm not AI, that give people context to the books that I write. So that's what I've been doing lately. And then, of course, we reach today, and it's like a big sigh of relief after not sleeping last night, just because I suppose as much as I say that I don't care how the book comes out, like all I care is giving everything I have into it. Um, I do care about the reception, and that, of course, I want to be able to continue to do this for a living. And there's a dance with the readers, right? I want, as much as I write for me, I write for you too, because I want you to be entertained. I want to give you a little brief respite from whatever you're going through, because that's what books do to me. Uh, Ben asks, what changed your mind about something while writing this book? What changed? Whoa, that's pretty good, my brother. What changed your mind about something while writing this book? That's going to really make me think. Um, there was someone that made it into this book, and I I stole bits of their life, and and inserted it into one of the characters. And as I created that character and created the path for that character, I came to understand them in a very different way, and it was kind of beautiful. And I think it proved partially why authors should be able to write from any voice, because with being an author, you can step into someone else's skin and you should be allowed to without criticism, because you're trying to empathize with them, right? There's this movement called Own Voices that, people don't want you writing from a perspective that you don't understand. And I'm not going to like go to war with anyone over it because there's a lot of passion for the Own Voices movement. But for me, I think the entire point of being a writer is to step into other people's skin. So hopefully that answers that. Did you find the fact that there are so many personalities in this book, keeping them straight and progressing? Hold on, let's see. Did you find the fact that there are so many personalities in the book, keeping them straight and progressing with the details? I think I know what you mean, Sherry. There are a lot of personalities in this book, and it took some organization. It took a lot of thought. The book that I just wrote was totally pantsed because it was one point of view from this woman named Kara. Bologna was like Red Mountain in that there's five, maybe even six stories that are all going around at the same time, and they're supposed to all meet at this point at the climax. And that takes a lot of work. Um, One of the things I love to do is really sit with a character and start to feel them, and then when I switch point of views, it's almost like I can do, those quick change artists that you see on American Idol, or not American Idol, America's Got Talent, where just in a flash they switch and they, all of a sudden they're wearing something different. That's how I can I can get to that point while writing. And I did certainly with Bologna. And I could, if I was going to write a second book, I could do the same thing again. I can be in George's point of view, who is the retiree from Arizona, and then I can be his daughter, Bianca, and I can feel very differently. It's almost like even my gait changes, like the way my back is arched and the way I type, and I'll switch to this guy, Harold, and there's this weird, new kind of energy that enters me and kind of runs through me when I'm writing from Harold's perspective. And that is really the way that I keep them organized, is I just make sure that I'm feeling them before I type them. Sounds kind of woo woo, but I mean, I guess it is really. Let's see. Did any of your characters make a choice during the writing process that genuinely surprised you? Yeah, totally. I mentioned I was on a cruise in the Mediterranean, and then we ended up in Estepona, Spain. And I was about 60,000 words into this novel, which is about 120,000. And, one of the characters, Bianca, who might be some of your favorite as you read this, she's a psychotherapist who's written a self-help novel and moves to Italy and ends up just right across the street, really, from this bookstore. She wasn't really doing what I was telling her to do. I had kind of I knew what she wanted in the story and how she should grow. And then all of a sudden she had this spontaneous, I say she because truly, like, these characters are kind of they're totally alive in your head. She wanted to go on this spontaneous trip with her father. And I was like, well, this is going to derail everything. It doesn't quite fit with my outline. It doesn't quite fit with all this. And I had like a mini breakdown and called my agent and asked her to read it, or I said, I just need help. Like, my characters are not doing what I want them to do. They're being quite hard headed. And she read it, and I told her what I was thinking, and she said, quit worrying about it. Just do it. Who cares? Follow your instinct. And it was a nice, like, vote of confidence of, you're right. Like, what am I worried about? So I ended up taking Bianca and her father on this quick, spur of the moment journey. And really it became all about living in the moment and living spur of the moment, which is part of why you moved to Italy. It's so much more, or to Europe in general. I remember very much when we first moved to Valencia, we would connect with other parents because Riggs was in a Montessori school. And it wasn't like, oh, we should hang out. What are you doing on the 23rd of next month? Or can you squeeze us in next Saturday? It was like, it's great to meet you. What are we doing tonight? It was always just spontaneous. Let's just go. It wasn't like live by this calendar thing. So it ended up really serving the story well, I think. And it was a special moment. And I got to take readers to Verona and Venice and Ischia. And, I think we even went to Florence. So that was fun. Let's see. Let's see. Ben asked, did you leave anything out that you wish you could include? That you wish you, could have included? I don't think so with this one. I think it really, My editor's so great. She doesn't make me delete many things. The only thing I'm at battle with right now is that I am really enjoying books that break the fourth wall, meaning stories where um, the narrator or where the author shows himself. And I did so in An Echo in Time. If you remember that, the character named Boo pops up, kind of like an Alfred Hitchcock cameo. But even in ways where you're writing in third person limited, and all of a sudden you say, "But Boo would never know how bad it would get," you know, kind of jumping into a future tense and breaking the fourth wall. I like doing this, and my editor and my agent don't like it, and so we're pushing back and forth. In fact, I just removed a lot of that out of my current work in progress, and I think the same thing happened with Bologna. So we'll see. We'll see what I do with the next one. Let's see. What was it about Bologna that made you think this story needs to happen here? Well, I think I covered that some. It was a place that I thought not only myself, but my readers could discover something new. And, it turned out as I learned more and more to have the oldest university in the Western world. It is largely known throughout Italy as the culinary capital, certainly the culinary capital of the North. I'm sure Naples and a couple in Rome would love to go to war with who's the best, but um, that made sense because one of the other pieces that I'm so excited about, of course, I brought food into this and wine. One of the love interests is a chef who's chasing a Michelin star. And those of you who've been following me for a bit know that I had to go to a Michelin star restaurant, do a bunch of research. And of course, that was really special. And I created somewhat of a food fight in a Michelin star restaurant. And I brought that to life in the book. So it was only natural that I be in a culinary city to do that kind of thing. Do you have okay, I know Marta had some writing questions. Let me get to some writing stuff because my wife's gonna come and grab my ear probably in 10 minutes. Do you have a method or system to overcome writer's block? Can you share how you get through it? I don't know if that was Marta or somebody else. It's a great one, and I was just writing about it in this craft book, and I think there's a couple different things going on with writer's block. One, you're taking yourself too seriously. Whenever I'm just sitting there, like I said earlier, when I was challenged with Bianca fighting me and she wanted to go on this spontaneous trip, you're y- you're you're over worrying, like you're thinking that what you write matters that much. You're not writing the Bible, you know? I mean, sure, hopefully you're gonna write something that outlasts you, but you just need to relax and just put some words down. They don't have to, this especially in a first draft, it doesn't matter what comes out. Some of it is just gonna be terrible, and that's just the way. And so I think a lot of writer's block is not taking yourself so seriously and really just, I say this with all the love in the world, raise your fingers, put them over the keys, and just start moving them and putting words down, and they'll turn into sentences and just see what happens. Maybe you'll have to delete it all or maybe not. But writer's block is just someone letting tension and ego lead. And I think the other thing is, um, writer's block comes when you're not willing to dance with the muse, or if you're trying to lead the muse. Let the muse lead you. Don't step on her toes, because that's the other piece that'll keep you from being able to write. I mean, I get it. I have my moments. Has there been any changes to your writing process over the years? And if so, what impact have these changes had on your writing? Oh my god, I could talk so much. In fact, I just read a whole craft book covering this, but it was really interesting yesterday. I was watching a quick Jodi Picoult reel. Jodi, the, best-selling author. She was she was saying that, with all due respect to Anne Lamott and Stephen King, who arguably wrote the two most important writing craft books there are, that really people should find their own way, and they don't need to get too hung up on studying the craft. Now, I love studying the craft, and I love reading craft books because I love to see how other people think and stuff. But her point was, if you're reading craft books, you're just really, you're creating excuses not to write. So certainly, if you have a choice between writing and craft books, you should write. But what I have learned so much, especially lately, is I think I was studying the craft so hard and overthinking it for so long that I was creating kind of putting blinders on. And at first it was like, I need to figure out my method. Just like John Grisham sits down and he probably, draws out an outline on a legal pad and then he does this. Or I was just finished Rosie Walsh's new book this morning, The One Day You Were My Husband, and I Googled it and she uses sticky notes. And just like that, I was like, I want to have a process. So if somebody interviews me, I say, this is my process. This is how I do it. And what I've come to learn in the past 3 or 4 books is I have no interest in having a process. I'm going to change it up every time, and that is totally okay. It keeps me on my toes and pushes me. Let's see. How do you release the characters after you have completed the book? They tend to go away, and if they don't, that means there needs to be a sequel. So we'll see. Sandy is still in my mind. I'll be so curious how everyone receives Sandy, the porcupine bookstore owner. I was thinking about Theo of Golden, and those of you who've read it, I think it's in the top 5 right now in the New York Times, maybe number 1. And Theo, the main character, has no arc. He arrives on the page in the first scene as an enlightened, awakened being, and he affects those around him, but he really doesn't change. Which proves that you can do whatever you want. I really like writing flawed characters. That's what I enjoy. I love watching movies and reading books about flawed characters who grow, and I'll push it to the limit. And of course, draw some hate from some folks who think, well, I don't want to even read this person. But what I hope as a Boo Walker reader is you'll give me a chance to redeem these characters. And so that's really what I've done so far, and especially in this book, and especially with Sandy. I got on a tangent there, but I really wanted to bring that up. Let's see. Some authors have music or playlist that pairs with their novel. Does this novel have a playlist, or is there a song? I wrote so much of this to bands like Go-Go Penguin and Got Street Park. So if anything, it probably has a British modern jazz playlist to it. But on that note, I have been working on a playlist that I've been putting together for months, and I'm going to share soon if you sign up for my newsletter. Let's see. Can you talk about your drafting process? For example, do you write for a specific amount of time from X hour to X hour, or do you write in sprints? So, yeah, usually I subscribe to the eat the frog metaphor and rule, which is get what's hardest out of the way first. So when I wake up, I get coffee in me, and I get up pretty darn early, and as soon as that caffeine is rolling, I go upstairs and get after it. And if I'm in the drafting stage, meaning I'm writing a first draft, so I'm facing blank pages and I'm having to fill them, I'll do the Pomodoro technique. So I'll use a Pomodoro timer on my computer and set 25 minutes, and it'll keep me from accessing the internet and email and text and stuff. I'll basically get into a do not disturb world and go 25 minutes, and I'll just move my fingers no matter what. And maybe that's part of the answer to writer's block is even if I kind of have lost my way, I'll just keep going for those 25 minutes. And sometimes some of the best stuff happens that way. Thank you, Gene and Richard. Good to see you, Richard. Thank you for joining. You feel free to throw in any last questions. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to sneak off on the boat here shortly to go cruise up the Casco Bay for a celebratory lobster roll. What is I got a good one. What is one thing about yourself that would surprise your readers? Yes, yes. Well, I've got a big one. I think I've barely. Oh, Marta, you said 1 25-minute sprint. That's a great question. So when I'm drafting, my goal is to try to get 2 to 3,000 words. Sometimes if I'm feeling really frisky, I'll try to get upwards of 5,000. But for the most part, if I hit 3,000, I'm really happy. If I hit 2,000, I'm pretty good. 25 minutes, I can get 900 words, sometimes 1,000 if I'm flowing. So, I'll go, but other sprints, I'll just sit there like a dumb squirrel. So I guess probably 3 or 4 Pomodoro sprints a morning. Um, and I'm pretty happy. And very often I'll start the 25-minute timer and I'll hear it go off somewhere in my head, but I'm so deep into the characters, I'll just keep going for another 30 minutes. But usually that's the idea with the Pomodoro is it just forces me to like, hey, stop being distracted, go, you know? Already I forgot what my yes, something that would surprise the readers. So I barely mentioned this, but my wife and son and I are moving to Charlottesville, Virginia. It is properly official because we just closed on a construction plan and we're building a house on Owensville Road in Charlottesville. Something we almost did years ago, and we tried to buy 5 houses during after leaving Spain, and it was during that crazy real estate time and we just came runner up 5 times in a row. And eventually we said, we're going to go to our other choice, which is Portland, Maine. So nomadic as we are, we're ready for a new adventure. So we're moving probably about a year from now. We'll see when the house is built. So pretty exciting. That's the land of Mr. Grisham and a lot of great writers. Who else comes to mind? I just saw Bruce Holsinger, who wrote Culpability, lives there. There's a lot of good ones. Maggie Stiefvater. Um, so I'm looking forward to some new ideas to write, some new settings to capture. My wife and I are going to plant vines. And, I feel like in a way, this whole life we're building is just chasing new stories. And I'm bringing to you a main story next. And then we keep going from there. Julie B loves Charlottesville. I do too. We've been down there. We don't know it that well. We don't know anybody down there except our real estate agent, but we just have been pooled for a long time. And every time we go down, it just something is wonderful about it. Fortunately, we are going to keep this little cottage up here, so we're going to be proper snowbirds and come up here in June to escape that hot Virginia heat. Let's see, what author do you most envy, and for what reason? I envy. mm, Well, let's see, Blake Crouch, Andy Weir, Taylor Jenkins Reid, anyone who's getting proper movies made in Hollywood right now. I suppose envy such a yucky word, but I am excited for these authors who are having movies made of their books, and I want to join that crew. How about that? That is heavily on my mind. I always write Hollywood in the sand whenever I'm on the beach, and I'm trying to just bring this to fruition. I've come close so many times, but not quite there yet. So fingers crossed. Maybe the Bologna book is the next one. Who was your favorite author as a child? Jack London. I remember reading Call of the Wild and White Fang and floored. That was like easily the first books where I was like, okay, this is not stuff that is being crammed down my throat in a curriculum. This is just good stuff. Someone says recently I've gone through some healing and reconnections, the loss of my spouse, moving to a new neighborhood, trying to reconnect with friends who kind of left me out of the loop. Oh, that's a really tough place to be. And I will be in a similar mode in Charlottesville, not trying to reconnect with old friends, but connecting with new friends, something that is a challenge at everybody's age. I send you love, Gene. Bologna is a great screen story. Thank you, Marta. So is Sunrise. I think there's some good stuff for a movie. We'll see. It's going to happen. Which genre do you not currently write in, but would like to? Literary apocalyptica. 100%. I'm going to write an end of times series one day. As soon as I can't stand it and I can't keep it in the bottle any longer, I've already started to plan it. What classic novel do you think is overrated? To Kill a Mockingbird. And I can say that because I was named after one of the characters. Um, it's fine. I mean, it's fine. She's a genius and all these things, but it's not a world I want to inhabit, that setting. And it's not my bag. I feel very confident in saying it's okay to like what you like, no matter what. My friends give me such a hard time for not loving rap, but I'm sorry, I just don't. And I don't love To Kill a Mockingbird. And they're the same thing, rap and To Kill a Mockingbird. Just kidding. The thing is, you're allowed to like what you like, and that's okay. Um, Okay, a couple more and then I'm gonna get out of here. What is the one genre that you would not want to write? Oh, I'll tell you right now. I have 2 dear friends who are romanced writers, Lucy Score and Cecilia Mecca, who you should check out both of their things. Um, and I've learned a lot about being what it takes to be a romance writer, and I'm just exhausted even thinking about it. For one, you have to really have a handle on what tropes are required. So, because your readers have a very specific, um, they demand certain things to happen. I can't even explain it, but enemies to lovers, and it has to end in a happily ever after, or it can end in a what is the other word? Maybe happily ever after or something. There's so many tropes that you would that to be a romance writer, I think you'd have to read for an entire year first to just brush up your chops. So I will um, leave that lane to the masters. Certainly not me. Um, okay, two more. When you found out your hand didn't work well enough to continue playing music professionally, you probably thought your future was diminished and it promised not to be as fun. Now that you are universally successful author, would you rather your hand be more perfect to play music the rest of your long life, or be a long life, thank you, or be more perfect to write out notes and type out manuscripts until you retire? Wow, that one hits me in the heart. I feel that. Thanks for the question. I lost my career, my first career, to something called focal dystonia, which I wasn't able to use my index finger in the same way that I used to when I was playing the banjo. And so I kind of went through a dark time and climbed out of it and made my way to writing. Would I trade it? I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was the hardest thing I ever went through, and it took me a lot of years to figure out that it's the best thing that I ever went through. It helped me grow, and it led me to my family and so many friends and so many new places, and my whole life would have been totally changed. I missed the band that I was in. Those guys were my brothers, and it was heartbreaking to leave them, but I'm exactly where I am supposed to be, and that feels really good to say. In fact, for the first time in over 20 years, I performed in front of people, last week at the Peaks Island Porch Fest. I was able to play guitar and back up my really talented son, and, um, that was just marvelous. So I'm very happy to just play music here in my office over on the mainland, and, play with friends now, and I don't need to be doing it for a living. That's a tough life out there, my goodness. Finally, oh, William Holland, hold on, I'll get to you in 1 second. I'm so glad to hear from you, man. What message do you hope readers take away from the English bookstore in Bologna? Um, that's a really good one. I mean, the first thing I'd like to say is I just put everything I have into it, and I don't really want to tell you what to get out of it other than we're all growing, and maybe we never stop growing, and maybe that's the piece of me that I put into this is that there's each of the characters is a totally different age, different part of life. And you never have it figured out. You might have it figured out for a moment, but as soon as you do, you're thrown another curveball, and it's never too late to just change it up and to chase life harder and to make your life brighter. And it's and you certainly just can't give up, you know? Um Yeah, the English bookstore in Bologna, there's a fellow named George, there's Bianca. They're all just going through their things, and really, it's just a reminder that we will hit phases in our life that are difficult, but we can get through them with some effort. It might be ugly, but that's okay. It's okay. Maybe the answer is it's okay to be flawed as long as you're trying, you know? Mr. William Holland, a blast from the past. My history in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where I grew up. When you start a new book, what usually comes first for you, the character, the setting, or the story itself? Have you ever thought of writing music? I hope all is well. Well, to writing music, I used to do it for a living back in the old days, and I'm trying to get back into it. And I really, really need to. What I'd like to do is write music with my son because he's the really talented one in the family. And I feel confident that if he wants to chase a dream as a performer and as a singer, he'd have no trouble other than the trouble of living as a rock star celebrity musician. That seems to come with some things. To your first question, when you start a new book, what usually comes first, the character, the setting, or the story? It's it's never any one thing, I don't think. I suppose it's just a seed. It can be something I read in the newspaper. It can be a lyric I hear. It can be the way a person is walking in front of me. It can be, an experience I have while I'm traveling, or if I'm just while I'm brushing my teeth. This tiny seed hits me, and I think, "Ah, there's a story there." And then I start asking what if questions. And usually those what if questions will lead toward a character or a setting. I'm currently under contract, 2-book deal, and I presented the first book to my publisher, the idea, and they gave me a 2-book deal. So I have 0 idea what this next book will be about, and it's due probably July 15th of next year. It's a really fun, maybe scary place, but more exciting, like you're in free fall kind of place. And I'm just waiting for that little seed right now. And I'm certainly not saying, "Oh, I need to find a character, and then I'm gonna give that character a story." I'm not gonna say, "I'm gonna find a setting and then, put a character in there." It's much more organic than that, and I find, just like with anything that we do that matters, the answers are there when I stop trying and when I get out of my own way, and so I'm really open to whatever seed is gonna come my way, and I love it. I'm kinda holding off, but there's a moment in time in the next few weeks where I'll say, "Okay, I'm ready for a new story." And, I'm speaking that is a prayer to, however you wanna call it, whatever you wanna call it. That is me sending out kind of a, radio signal that it's time for a new story. Let's go. Mr. Kermis, I'm gonna, go get on a boat, which I know you understand. It's so nice to see you, Kevin. Thank you guys for joining. I really appreciate it. And thank you for spreading the word. The English bookstore in Bologna. I was talking to my agent a couple weeks ago, and she was telling me that 4 million books published last year. And, I'm sure that AI has a lot to do with that. And I'm sure this year will be even worse. So it takes a lot to break through the noise. And the simple fact is, as I've heard Ann Patchett say before, and I just believe it with all of me, is the way that I survive as an author, the way any author survives is readers like you who tell somebody, and so the best thing I can do is give everything I have, bleed onto the page, present it to you like I am today, and then I'm at your mercy. So I hope you enjoy the book, and thanks for being there. Much love to you guys.